And welcome to another edition of Bury Your Bookie, presented by Greenlight Ventures. The symbol on the stock market is GRNL. And happy to have you guys along for the ride. And what figures to be another spectacular week of wagering. We concluded yesterday with the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Jets. We didn't make it an official pick, but it seemed like San Francisco was going to have overwhelming talent. Even without McCaffrey in the lineup, they managed to handle the Jets relatively easily. 32-19 was the final, easily covering the 4 points as we suggested. And I think you might find that the Jets will be badly overbet until such time as people realize they're not that great of a team. Maybe they'll get it together. We saw Aaron Rodgers make his return. It was somewhat pedestrian, his performance. That one drive when he went in for the touchdown early in the game and took the lead 7-3 over San Francisco certainly made a good account of himself there. But other than that, relatively unspectacular and someone outplayed by a rusty Brock Purdy in the ballgame. So hopefully you guys made a score there. If you are betting these ball games, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. If you really know your stuff, they have all kinds of contests working all the time. When the game's over, head on over to their online casino. You can play poker, you can play blackjack, you can indulge in over 150 slot games they make available to you. Head to the website today to get in on all the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, going to be joined here, hopefully momentarily, by a good friend of ours. We haven't spoken to him for a while, at least in an official capacity on any of our shows. And that would be our good friend Scott March, also known as Scotty M. He has a betting service, and there he is, and probably the best hair in the degenerate world. We welcome to
There you go.
Scotty M. Scotty, how are you? It was good running into you the other day.
It's great seeing you, Defo. It's been a long time. We used to do that show, Degenerate Fridays,
Yes.
back in the day, and yeah, still moving along, still in the industry, and looking forward to a big, big football season.
No doubt. And, it's interesting because I was talking about, I'm a big fan of road signs that have sexual double entendre to them and maybe deeper meaning. And my favorite, of course, in that category is slippery when wet, which pretty much everybody can relate to. And there was also another slippery reference that I always have indelibly impressed in the movie about Reuben Hurricane Carter. The Hurricane, Rod Steiger is the judge. And he tells Hurricane Carter's lawyers, listen, you're traveling down a slippery slope. And is that not, I don't know what your thought is on this, but mine is that week 2 of the NFL season, especially without any significant deductions that could be made in the preseason because nobody plays, we saw a lot of slop out there, a lot of high-powered offenses, supposed to be high-wire acts like the Dolphins. It really didn't overwhelmingly impress. But is this the most difficult week, in your opinion, to handicap? Because can we really count on our eyes and base our wagers on what we saw in week number 1?
Well, that's a good question. The way I look at things, I'm a numbers guy. That's what I've been doing for the past 35 years. So I look at each week individually based on the numbers. Obviously, I'm watching the teams. I'm looking at how they're performing and if they look like, if they look good or they didn't look good. And, there's a chance for them to turn it around. You know how the NFL is from one week to the next. You could get blown out one week. The next week, you could blow someone out. So for me, the way I look at these games is I go week to week. I'm looking at the numbers. That's what I am. I'm a numbers guy. I'm trying to dissect that line to feel I have the edge. And if I feel I have the edge, I'm going to use that matchup. But to kind of get in with to answer your question, I don't think week 2 is a big deal from week 1, to be honest, because some of these teams, like you said, they're kind of just kicking into gear. They're coming off the preseason. A lot of players didn't play. Now they're starting, to gel a little bit. But if a lot of players moved around on certain teams, that could be an effect, obviously, because they haven't really played a lot of games or any games together. So you got to look for value out there. This time of the year, the key for me is the value. The point spread is the decision maker for me at the end of the day.
All right, I'm looking at some of the early lines here for this week's NFL action, and the earliest of them, of course, involves, and both of us hail from South Florida here, where we ran into each other at a very fine restaurant,
There you
the
go.
Sicilian Oven, way out west, man. What are you doing way out west? Are you living in one of those mansions in
Yeah.
Parkland or something off of your winning picks?
Yes, I'm in God's country out on the west side of town. Yes, when you have kids, they say head west. If you're single or you're not, you go to the east side of town.
That's me. I mean, I'm out there with the surfboard and
All
the
right
jet
on the
ski, and
ocean down there.
that's the
Beautiful.
way to go. All right. If you wanted to make some money this week on this Dolphin game, though, and we're looking at the Dolphins early in the game, the play calling of Mike McDaniel, who is one of these, sort of avant-garde offensive geniuses coming out of the Shanahan system there. He was a run game coordinator. We've
Yep.
seen him make some strange Brandon Staley type calls in situations where you might have wanted to just pound the ball up the middle. But early in the game, and I don't know if that had anything to do with Tyreek Hill. I'm going to say no to that since he ended up scoring a
Yeah, what'd
touchdown.
you what'd you think of that crazy episode there? Huh? Wasn't that crazy? They pulled them out of the car. Now they're showing they just took them right out and threw them right down. Yeah,
Who's speeding around that area anyway? Because you can't even move. The traffic is total
right,
chaos there,
right.
and the police should pay more attention to trying to direct people into the stadium because you have no idea where you're going. You start showing a pass there, and they guide you down to some lot that's by Tootsie's, the strip club, 4 miles away.
There you go.
I mean, you would hope that they would be concentrating more on just doing their job and keeping the crowd under control. I do know this, and we've been trying to verify it, I guess, but somebody told me they added 2 years to Derek Chauvin's sentence, the guy that was in the George Floyd thing. And, I mean, it looked ugly. I was watching Hill on CNN last night being interviewed, and
Yeah.
you thought, my God, when you saw the video, that what was that not a little bit excessive? And if you were a cop around the stadium, I mean, holy Scotty Scheffler, would you not have assumed that maybe a guy driving like $1 million car an
They
athletic-looking
they
black
definitely knew.
man might be one of the players on the team?
Yeah, they definitely knew who he was. The word they knew who he was, but I don't get it. The whole thing about the pulling him out, throwing him down, and all that stuff. But kind of crazy world we're living in, Defo. You know that, anyways.
Well, I mean, I don't like to walk my dog after 11 o'clock in the morning because the pavement's so hot. So to throw a Dolphin player face down on the pavement in handcuffs and put your knee in his back for a guy that might have been going a few miles over the speed limit in an area where literally the traffic is just absolutely stalled anyway.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
at that hour, I mean, it did seem a little bit excessive, but it didn't seem to affect Hill all that much,
No,
although the early offensive struggles of the Miami Dolphins certainly were apparent. They go against the Bills this week. We were just talking with a good friend of ours who has an outstanding sports website called 5 Reasons Sports Network, and he really dives into every detail about every game. And he was saying that this is already like a pivotal game, as if you were talking about a playoff series
I
against
agree
the
with
Buffalo Bills.
I agree with this game being interesting for this AFC East, obviously, because one team's going to be 2-0, the other team's going to be 1-1. They're going to have a game in hand. Obviously, New England, they got their win. We'll talk about that a little bit, but
Yeah. That's your
you know,
team too. I mean, weren't you like flying up to the New England games on Tom Brady's ticket?
yes, I was for a lot of years. I was going up there. That's
Yeah,
correct. But this game's interesting to me because they made a pretty strong line of 1.5. Miami's just a slight favorite in this game.
yeah.
Uh, obviously they didn't put it all together until the second late in the game. They started coming together, obviously moving the ball and doing things. I think they're going to handle Buffalo in this game. I think the number on this game, it's
It now is 2.5, I think.
I'm showing two, and I'm looking right as I'm talking to you. I'm on my screens here in front of me, but I'm showing most of the bigger books have the game right now about 1.5 to 2.
Okay.
There might be a pop to 2.5. I'm sure as it gets closer. But I think if you could make Miami a money line play and forget the point spreads, just for them to win the game outright, I like Miami in this spot. I picked Miami, believe it or not, to win the AFC East
I did
before.
too.
Yeah, I like them. I think they're going to win about at least 9.5, 10 games. I think they'll go over the win total. I think this is a big game for them. I think they're going to pull themselves together. Buffalo, I'm still suspect on Buffalo. I'm not really sure at the end of the day. I mean, Josh Allen's a beast. Obviously, he's the key to their success. But I think coming down here after, the first week, like you said, what happens in week two, this could be an interesting week for Buffalo, more so than Miami. I think they're going to be very focused for this game. I think the Dolphins are going to win this game pretty handily.
Josh Allen has been a big problem though for the Miami Dolphins. I
Oh yeah,
believe he's won 10 out of 11 starts. against the Miami Dolphins in the last 11 games. The two teams have played. They meet two times a year, obviously, so it's quite frequent. But him running the football has seemed to be a giant problem for the Miami Dolphins to contend with, even though everybody looks at Josh Allen as an interception waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I like the Dolphins team. It wasn't overwhelmingly impressive what they did in game number one. Life and death. If they don't get the strip there from Holland on ATN, they lose the game. I mean, that would have been a backbreaking touchdown if they go in for the score there,
Yeah, I
Jacksonville. And
mean, both of these teams could have been 0-1 in week one. I mean, the Dolphins were lucky to come back, to win that game on a late field goal with no time left. Buffalo, they were down most of the game. They came back to get the job done. So, both of these teams kind of coming in with the same emotions, comeback wins to get the job done. Obviously, Buffalo at home, they were a big favorite, expected to win that game, but it wasn't as easy as it was for them to get the job done. Now they got to travel to Miami and come down, in a short week. This could be the type of game that they could take advantage, even though Josh Allen's, like you said, dominated them, and he's a beast from both sides. A threat to run, threat to throw. But I think the Dolphins got a lot of weapons in this game, and they can handle Buffalo in this spot.
let's hope they bounce back offensively. McDaniel, as we say, get kind of an oddball, avant-garde genius when it comes to play calling, maybe to his own detriment. But early, I thought his play calling was more suspect than a Rudy Giuliani election fraud brief. I really didn't know what the hell he was doing there. All right, as you peruse the NFL card, and you
Yeah.
don't see, I'm glad that you don't see this as the same slippery slope that I do. But as you peruse the card, is there anything that stands out to you other than this Dolphins-Bills game?
Yeah, I mean, there's always games that appear to be. I think Dallas, like I said, another pick I made earlier in the year. I thought before the season, obviously before preseason, when we were doing our evaluations. I thought Dallas was going to come out of the gate strong this year. I thought it was going to be like a proving type of season. I mean, I know every year everyone gets let down by them, but I thought that they would come out of the gate strong. I mean, they played a tremendous game week one. I think they're going to have momentum. Yeah, that win obviously by New Orleans. I mean, beating a Carolina team who's just really doesn't have it all on both sides of the ball. So I don't even worry about that they blew out Carolina. I like Dallas. I think Dallas is going to win that game. I think they're going to pop at least 30 some odd points up. I think they're going to be a very high explosive team this year. So I think they're going to score at least 30 something. I don't think New Orleans can handle scoring that many points at Dallas. And I think definitely I like Dallas in that spot. I would get that line to -6. I'm showing 6.5. It might even go to 7 closer to game time, but I'd keep it under a touchdown. One thing, a big component on with numbers doing this, as long as I look for the value of a point spread. I don't leave games on 6.5. I don't leave games on 7.5. I try to get the value of the line. So I bring this line down to 6, and I jump on Dallas. I like them in this spot.
We know the harpoon that the hook can be when you're playing against a point spread that involves the half a point. How much does it cost for the uninitiated? I mean, what would it cost you to bring a game from 6.5 down to 6?
On some, it depends on the book, obviously, but it's probably on a line like that. It's only a half a point. It's not coming from a 7 down to a 6.5, which would probably, it's a little more money. I would say that's just probably a -120, 120 lay, where it could be from a 7 down to down to 6.5. It could be, as much as 125, 130, because you're coming off the 7, bringing it lower. But a
All right,
6.
and you find that to be a profitable strategy over time.
I don't do it all the time, but I do it on certain situations. That I've been successful with it. As long as you're consistent, you're making a profit. No matter what you're doing, as long as your games are consistent, you're going to make money, even if you're laying the extra juice here and there. Do I recommend doing it all the time? No, but I do it in certain situations.
Yeah, laying big prices is usually a surefire way to go broke. Are you looking at the college slate at all this week, Scotty M?
Yeah, I am actually. There's one game that's hit me real good. I like UCF plus the 2. Actually, it's not even +2 anymore. It's down to 1. I like UCF against TCU. I think this number on this game. The way I look at things, I'm looking at numbers, and I'm saying to myself, these teams are both 2-0 at this stage. They really haven't beat anybody significant. But at the end of the day, home field advantage on a matchup like this easily in my eyes is 3.5. TCU, I thought if that number was 3.5, I wouldn't probably be touching the game. But they brought this game out at 1.5. I think that TCU is not going to be able to play with UCF in this matchup. I think UCF can go in there; they're going to get the job done. And I like this play a lot. I like the dog in this game. Not that it's a big dog, but plus 1.5. Right now I'm showing 1.5. I definitely like them in this game very much.
All right, so buy the Cowboys down to 6 if you want to play that game, or if you're really are a brave heart, go ahead and lay the 6 in a hook, and then UCF on the college slate. Anything else that you think you might be unloading on this week, Scotty M?
Yeah, I'm looking at. Let me just pull this up. I'm trying to get my screen up as I'm talking to you. I apologize for that.
That's all right.
Technology at its finest.
Been very impressive, though, that you're able to multitask like this
Yes,
on the show.
I am trying to do multitask for you, Defo. Anything for
Yes.
you, my man.
All right. Uh,
1 second here.
all right. And are you still playing baseball and all of the other
Oh yeah,
sports
yeah, yeah.
on your
We do it all. We do it all. We're a
site?
full-fledged service. We put out baseball selections daily basis. We're putting out college football. The only thing I really haven't dabbled much in is I haven't done anything really with the WNBA stuff. But other than that, I got another one that I like. It's another live dog. I like South Carolina at home against LSU. They came out of the gates really strong right now. They made LSU on the road. I think this number is just not a solid number in this game at all. I don't think LSU should be a 7-point favorite in this spot. The Gamecocks are playing extremely well. First couple of games out on both sides of the ball. LSU lost their first game, obviously against USC. Came back, beat a weaker opponent last week. But to give a team like this 7 points in this spot, I think the dog is barking big time in this game. I really do. I think that the dog is alive, and I grabbed that 7 points with South Carolina in this matchup. And there's one other game I liked. That was a total. I like the game on the Maryland game to go over the number. I think it was 54 points. I think that's going to be a shootout type of game. They're playing Virginia. Both of these teams can definitely allow points, and they can both score on offense. Virginia had a tremendous comeback last week. They got the job done, came back late to beat Wake, put up 31 in that game. And I think Maryland will allow points. They'll score points, and I think the same for the other side. So I like the over in that total. I think that game, I'm trying to pull it up on my screen, but I think it's 54 if I'm not mistaken. And I like that game to go over the total.
All right, sounds good. Now, how can people get a chance to take advantage of your services?
Well, the best way right now, I'll tell you, we're all over social media, and one of my biggest platforms is TikTok, where I put up videos, guys, all the time, special promotions, whatever you need. We're here for you. We're trying to give you that winning edge. Obviously, I've been doing this for 35 years, full-time living, nothing else. I've known Defo a long time. This is all I do. I don't win them all, guys, but I'm consistent at the end of the day, and that's how you make some money doing this. You got to look for value, Defo. You know it as well as I do with these games, and you can't be in a rush just to play to play. You got to pick your spots, guys, especially early in the year. You don't want to bury yourself, bury your bankroll by just chasing after games. So we try to keep it real. We look for select games only. And my TikTok channel is SM Picks, Picks. That's how you find me. You can get free stuff from me all the time. I put it out to the public. I got no problem with that. I also have private services. If you want to DM me through TikTok, send me a DM. I can explain to you what we do. Real easy to work with. Just looking to give you that winning edge at the end of the day.
You always like to. I mean, I remember a guy telling me I was a vendor at Shea Stadium, and I was working for Harry M. Stevens selling souvenirs, and I came back looking kind of tired from a shift around the stadium, and I had like one pennant left, and I was ready to go back out. And the guy, I still remember him. His name was Bob O'Neill, and he says to me, "Don't go out like that. You look like a schlep." He says, and he hands me like another 25 pennants, which were difficult to navigate my way around the stadium with at first. He said, the number one thing in sales is look prosperous. And I don't know of any handicapper that looks more prosperous than you. So
Hey, listen,
it must be working, Scotty. I'm 35 years, nothing else.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's not
been
like you're
doing it
taking some side job. So it must be working well for you.
1980, 1988, got in the business. Yep, going into my 36th year actually this year in football. So yeah, it's been a long run. I love what I do. I mean, I like to put myself to the challenge of figuring these games out and speaking to the right people that I deal with in my little inner circle of experts. I feel that know the game inside the game, and we just try to give the our players that winning edge. But like we said, you got to play smart, guys. When it comes to betting sports, Defo, you could tell them probably better than I can. You don't want to just bury your bankroll early in the year, then you're knocked out of the game. You want to play smart now, pick your spots, don't go overboard. Money management's very key to being successful at this.
Yeah, and we've had many people say that. Listen, you have to bet incrementally, and if you love a game, then that's your 5-star game. Then go ahead and put the 5 units on it. But
Yeah.
if it's just a game that you're playing or whatever, or you think you have an opinion, but it's not real strong, lower it down. I mean, you can't bet the same amount on every game because if you do, that's also never mind burying your bookie. That's an easy way to end up in a body bag yourself. Oh, we kind of lost Scotty M there in the process, but yeah, there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not inclined to tell clients to bet the same amount on every game, are you?
Well, what I do with my games, to be honest with you, when I work with a player privately, not per se when they're, I'm managing them, I,
Yes.
I I try to keep them on one key game, and I try to have a balanced bankroll for them. If they're playing X amount, I try to keep them at that level until we get to a certain plateau. Once we have more profits, if we want to move the plays up because we're using profits, obviously to do that with, we're playing with free money at this point. Then if the play looks outstanding and it warrants it, yeah, I might tell them to go a little stronger. But I'm picking my spots. I'm not chasing after it. The problem I have with clients, to be honest, I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times.
Sure.
They want to chase after games all day long. If I give a 12 o'clock game and I win, I'm done. I'm not looking for a 3:30 or a 4 o'clock or a 5 o'clock or a 7 o'clock or a 10 o'clock like they are. They're looking for more and more opportunities, and that puts them in a bad situation because the more you play, the greater chance of losing you have.
Yep, going against the odds.
I'd rather take the money off and
It's
come back another day.
outstanding stuff, Scotty. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was great running into you the other day. We used to do our Degenerate Friday show, and what was kind of a knockoff of the old Proline show, where we had like Stu Feiner and Jim Feist and
Oh
Chip
yeah,
Chirimbus and some of
you
the
had them
guys that were
all on there.
on that USA show from many, many years ago. Long before it was like two for the money, long before the betting craze really unfolded and evolved to what it is today, which is absolutely in your wildest imagination, could you ever have figured that we'd see wagering at the stages that it is today? It used to be kind of
No,
a taboo thing. Oh, yeah, he's betting money on football.
yeah, no.
And now look what's happening. I mean, you got Roger Goodell with DraftKings tattooed on his forehead as he's sitting at the game.
Let me tell you something. It's the greatest thing that's happened to my industry.
Yes.
More and more players, virgin players that never did it before, are coming out of the woodwork. And the funny thing is, a lot of female players.
Yes.
Oh, a lot of female players reaching out. I get a lot of DMs from them that they're looking for plays and how it works. They're trying to get interested in the game of sports betting, which is great. And yeah, it's crazy the doors it's opened since it's gone really opened up in New Jersey. I think it was about 4 years ago or so. But it's crazy. It's helped my business tremendously. Social media has been unbelievable help for us because now people are finding us through social media that we would have never known were players before. So yeah, the craze is it's as crazy as it could be at this point.
All right. Once again, how do you sign up for Scotty M's information?
The best thing for you guys to do is check us out on TikTok. Like I said, my TikTok is SMPicks, PICKS. Just type it in when you go to TikTok. We put out free stuff all the time. If you have any questions or you want to know about our private services, all you have to do, guys, is shoot me a DM. I'll get back to you myself personally on that, and I'll try to help you get that winning edge, try to help you build the bankroll. Don't make mistakes this time of the year. I'm not here to preach anybody, but I'm just doing it from knowledge and experience. I see too many guys getting way overboard way early, and that's not the way to do it.
All right. A pleasure having you on the show, Scotty. Thanks so much for joining us.
Defo, you're the
Hopefully we'll
best,
talk
man.
to you again next week.
You're the best. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot. Scotty M, ladies and gentlemen. Known the guy a long time. Ran into him the other day. Always looks prosperous. That's for sure. But we call that screen to screen in horse racing, where as soon as a game's over, as soon as a race is over, you run to the next screen now. Well, with simulcasting since its advent many years ago, never mind just betting one track, which most disciplined horse players would recommend. I'm only playing Saratoga, maybe one other. I'm betting every race at every track, and eventually, it gets to the point where you're starting to get ground down a little bit. Did suffer a hideous DQ the other day. That was debatable. The stewards at Colonial Downs probably took more time as judges to decide what the course of action was going to be than it took for the jury to decide the outcome of the Trump hush money trial. And whenever it takes a long time, usually it starts to get around the racetrack that, they're going to bury everybody that had the winner in this race. And sure enough, they took the horse down, and that was it. Cost me a bunch of money. But screen to screen is not necessarily a profitable way to approach betting, and especially so if you're talking about football games that are decided on such minuscule quirks of fate sometimes, like those toes that were just out of bounds in the Ravens game to start the season as the Ravens went down to the Chiefs. All right, a lot of fun being with you. Thanks so much. Great having Scotty M on the show. We'll do it again tomorrow. Troy West should be our guest on the program tomorrow, helping you try to bury your bookie. And I do think, I'm not necessarily in accord with Scotty M. I do think it's difficult to make definitive judgments out of week number one. You might see some turnaround. Some of these teams that looked very poor in week number one might turn it around, find a way to get it together. And it is interesting that you have a pivotal second week game in the AFC Eastern Division. If you took our recommendation and said the Dolphins are going to win the division, a little bit suspect now as what we saw Buffalo eventually prevail. New England already has a win, and the Jets the only loser out of the division so far. But at 2-1, they look like a pretty good play to us. And so we'll see. A very pivotal contest coming up on Thursday night. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow here on NoFilter.net and our various other platforms with the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.